And the other interesting move towards peace in the Middle East is a sheikh in Hebron, which is a city in the West Bank, ruled currently by the Palestinian Authority. He has basically written a letter, which has also been signed by a few other sheikhs in the region, saying they want to secede from the Palestinian Authority, which is basically acts as the government of the West Bank, and they want to recognise Israel and join the Abraham Accords. In exchange, that would allow people from Hebron to enter Israel for work, and also they would establish basically an emirate run by the sheikhs. Now, this is really interesting because in Gaza, Israel is actually supporting a local clan, Abu Shabab, to act as a resistance against Hamas. And traditionally in the Middle East, this was how things were governed. You didn't have these centralized governments. You had local tribal groups or clans, often run by the sheikhs. And so this is really interesting. The fact that they are now saying, they said this, the state of Palestine, that idea is dead post-October 7. Now the way forward, Abraham Accords recognize Israel and dismantle the Palestinian Authority.
So there's two major stories here, and I think you've hit on the biggest story second, which is you've got tribal leaders within the West Bank saying the two-state solution is dead. In fact, he said, give it 1,000 years and there still won't be two states because the Israelis could never allow it after what Hamas did on October 7. Remember, this is not a Jew speaking. This is a Palestinian tribal leader saying two-state solution dead and buried. Someone should tell Penny Wong, because that's still the position of our government, as if they would know what's going on. So for him to admit that and then to write an open letter to the Israeli economic minister saying, we want you to help us, work with us. We will recognise the state of Israel. It's a Jewish nation. We will recognise that Jerusalem belongs to the Jews. This is a huge step forward. And he says there are other sheikhs, tribal leaders, who control hundreds of thousands of Palestinian people who would also agree to this if Israel were agreeable.
Yeah, so this is an absolutely huge story. It broke about 24 hours ago. It was broken by the Wall Street Journal, Wall Street Journal, but a great journal called Elliot Kaufman, I think his name is. Impeccable masthead, obviously impeccable credentials. Hebron is the biggest city in the West Bank. It's bigger even, I think, than the capital, Ramallah. And so this is an enormous move. And you hit the nail on the head with the problem with there is no single Palestine. You basically have Gaza, which is or was run by Hamas, which has refused to have elections for well over a decade now. And then you've got Fatah, which runs the West Bank. And they've also been refusing to have elections for a bit over a decade, I think it is, because they were scared that Hamas would win those elections and they would lose power. So they kept finding excuses not to have them. So these two guys are already kind of at war, de facto war with each other. And that's before you even get to their war against Israel, which is kind of separate, because the West Bank hasn't really been involved in this conflict that involves Gaza. So I think this is a massive, massive breakthrough. And let us not forget as well that the reason for the October 7 attacks and the timing of them was especially designed not because everyone hated Israel in the Middle East, but because they were about to do a deal under the Abraham Accords where Saudi Arabia was going to get on board and other Gulf states were going to have closer ties with Israel. And so far be it from Hamas, they try to say, Israel's a pariah state, everyone hates them, they hate Muslims, and we're fighting the fight for freedom. In fact, Israel was on the verge of being accepted in the Gulf region by basically everyone except Iran and Hamas and Hezbollah, and that's why they had to blow up that process.
And that's the narrative that the Abraham Accords shattered. The idea that you could only have peace in the Middle East once you had a two-state solution. Well, Trump proved that's just false. You can go around the question of a Palestinian state. And not only will foreign governments now want peace with Israel, Palestinians themselves have realised they're on a one-way path to misery if they continue to deny Israel's right to exist, to launch terror attacks against Israel. And so this is amazing. I'm really hoping this progresses into something more.